Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Today, we're actually going to review Avengers Endgame, and there are spoilers in this review, so watch at your own peril. I just got done seeing it, the second showing at the theater today. Overall, I gotta say, I like Infinity Wars a lot better than this movie, but this movie does do a good job of tying together loose ends. So here we go. So 2 days afterwards, the Avengers that are left, they find Thanos. They basically like beat the crap out of him, and essentially they ask him, "What'd you do with the Infinity Stones?" And Thanos is like, "I destroyed the Infinity Stones." And everyone's like, "The hell you mean you destroyed the Infinity Stones?" And then Thanos is like, "I destroyed the Infinity Stones with the Infinity Stones." So he destroyed half the universe, and then he's like, "Well, I don't want anyone being able to bring the universe back." So he got rid of the Infinity Stones. So then everyone's all sad. Everyone goes back to their home or whatever. And then 5 years later, it has to do with Ant-Man. Ant-Man comes out of this quantum universe, says there's some way to like transverse or reverse time, and that's where it all begins. They go to Tony Stark's house. Tony Stark's like, "Nah, man," because Tony Stark has like a wife and a kid now, and he's like, "Nah, I got a second chance with what I got. I can't do it." But then he's Tony Stark, so he's like restless. So he does his computer simulation, and he actually gets the time machine to actually work. Hulk tries it first, but they can't do it without Tony Stark. So in the end, they gather the heroes that are left of the Avengers. They go back in time to try to retrieve the Infinity Stones. Now, here where I'm unsatisfied with the actual movie. There's a lot of interesting stuff when they go back in time. Like Thor goes back to Asgard the day his mother dies, basically, and he finds some peace and solace there. Rocket Raccoon goes with him, and he like extracts the stone from like Thor's lover's ass or something. I don't exactly know how that actually works. And basically, then they get out. Thor talks with his mother, finds some peace, and then they get out of there. By the way, for those of you who are looking for the hot Thor, you're going to be disappointed. He drank a lot of beer in the last 5 years, so he's got kind of a beer belly. So they get that stone. Other people go different places. Natasha dies so they can get the Soul Stone, and basically they get all the stones. Captain America, by the way, has to fight himself, a younger version of himself in the past. So they get that stone. But unfortunately, Nebula when she goes back in time, is connected with past Nebula. So Thanos finds out their entire plan, unfortunately. So he comes to the future. So like they capture present Nebula, and then they actually past Nebula takes present Nebula's place. So when they assemble all the Infinity Stones and wish for everyone back, past Nebula betrays them, and then she brings Thanos' giant ass flagship onto Earth. So Thanos like blows up the science lab, and he attempts to get the Infinity Gauntlet back. Of course, Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man fight him, but he sort of seemingly wins, and he faces down Captain America. Everything seems lost because Thor's army is there with as well. But then, because they use the Infinity Gauntlet, all these portals open up, and the Avengers and that army assembles, and then they go fight Thanos' army. And it seems like they sort of win. They try to jostle for the Infinity Gauntlet, and Tony Stark actually asks Doctor Strange, "Is this the one scenario in the 14 million that you calculated where we win?" And Doctor Strange is like, "If I tell you, it won't happen." So they kind of fight over and over again. But then in the end, Thanos grabs what seemingly is the Infinity Gauntlet, snaps his fingers, nothing happens, but it seems like Tony Stark has the real Infinity Gauntlet. He puts it on, snaps his fingers, and basically Thanos' army and Thanos evaporates. So the question of Thanos, so the problem with Thanos goes away, but of course the Infinity Gauntlet places enormous strain on its users. So unfortunately, Tony Stark dies. So I think this is the last Avengers movie we're going to see, at least with this group. Tony Stark dies. Everyone has a funeral. So in the end, Tony Stark and Natasha die. Natasha dies for the Soul Stone. And Tony Stark dies because he has to use the Infinity Gauntlet. You can't bring him back. and everyone else is brought back, and they're able to go back to their lives. Thor gives rulership of Asgard to the Valkyrie, um, and everything kind of goes back to normal. Except at the end, they have to return the Infinity Stones to the exact time that they got them from. So Captain America actually does that, but then he decides to take another trip back into time, and actually he goes back and takes over his past life, goes to find the girl that he loves, and he comes back into the present, but at a much, much later date. He's an old man, and he's lived a very long and happy life because he's relived his life with the girl of his dreams. Also, if Tony Stark did meet his father in the past, so it does a great job tying up loose ends. And in the end, because Captain America's an old man, Captain Falcon's like, well, I just don't want to live in a world without Captain America. That's my only regret. And then Captain America passes the Captain America shield to Captain Falcon. So Captain Falcon is the new Captain America. And everybody goes home. There's, like, people are sad because both Natasha and Iron Man died. But they win the war and they restore everything back to normal. Now, like I said, I feel like even though this was a 3-hour movie and they can't make the movie last forever, I thought the kind of like the kind of sections where they actually had to go travel in the past were really, really hurried because they had to do so many of them, and it just seems like they were just rushing through timelines like that. There was a couple of good action scenes, but it just didn't really like give us enough of that backstory. It didn't really seem to resolve enough, and every one of those backstory action scenes, the backstories seemed super, super rushed. So the movie storylines didn't really play out the way I wanted it to. It had plenty of action, but it left kind of a wanting feeling of like what was supposed to happen in the past. And in the end, I thought it was a good movie. I'm going to give it like an 82 out of 100. A solid B, maybe in the B minus category, but the bar set by Infinity Wars was really, really high to reach, and I thought this movie overall was not as good as Infinity Wars. 8 out of 10, 82 out of 100. That's what I rate Endgame. That is my review of Endgame. Good job tying up all the loose ends, but wasn't quite as epic as Infinity Wars. So that's my review of Endgame. Let me know if you agree with me. Like and subscribe if you like my content, and we'll get back to talking about cryptocurrencies in our next video. Thank you and have a nice day.